Season 4, Episode 4 of The Boys just solidified Homelander as the most disgusting, deplorable villain in the history of television. And it's not just because of his actions alone, even though they are very irredeemable. You see, the real dangerous aspect of Homelander is found in how his own psyche, as well as the audience, find a way to justify his actions. And we see this play out in the absolute worst way in this episode, when Homelander returns to the Vault Science facility he was raised in to seek vengeance on those who tormented him when he was a child. Now, I've seen a lot of people on the internet saying that they sympathize with Homelander over this and the struggles he endured as a child. And this is what makes him such a terrifying threat, both in the series and in real life. You see, Homelander is both literally and figuratively designed to be a symbol of self-proclaimed supremacy, and repeatedly shows us what the effects of malignant narcissism have on anyone with a level of power that is perceived as higher. However, one thing the majority of the fans of The Boys fail to realize is that the character is meant to parodize and patronize the supremacist man-children that view themselves this way, and have instead adopted Homelander as a rectifying symbol of justification towards their false perception of reality. And just like we see in the show with the battle between Homelander and Starlight supporters, this can have dangerous implications towards what the viewers perceive as immoral action. Because when they give this psychopath the self-victimization associated with being a test tube developed torture subject, then in the minds of Homelander and his fans, everything that he's done so far is justified. Or even worse, his most despicable actions are no longer his fault. And I find that to be the most disturbing aspect of Homelander, how he can hide behind the veil of childhood trauma and still be applauded for what is quite literally the worst stuff we've seen on The Boys. I remember there being promotional material from interviews with the showrunners where they told us season 4 Homelander would be more maniacal and murderous than ever, and the contents of this episode definitely went above and beyond to prove that. I was first unsettled when Homelander was shown in the elevator holding the ice cream cake, knowing that there was no way Homelander was just there to give these guys some sugar for doing their job. Now, the first one of the Vault scientists to receive karmic retribution is Frank, and this old guy played a special part in Homelander's trauma, being responsible for leaving Homelander in a furnace room and turning the heat to varying levels just to test the temperatures Homelander's body could withstand. Despite not getting any scars or burns, Homelander would still feel all of the pain whenever this happened to him. And I'm not gonna lie, I honestly can only imagine how awful this must have been to experience, especially as a small child. However, I don't feel bad for him. And the reason I say this is because despite how traumatic this must have been, everyone has experienced some kind of significant childhood drama that sticks with them mentally to this day. However, none of us are afforded the luxury of understanding that Homelander is given. Even when Homelander uses said childhood trauma to justify unspeakable acts, eventually he makes Frank right the wrongs he committed to a young Homelander by standing in the furnace himself, burning him to his end. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Homelander's torment continues. I'm not even sure if I can talk in detail about the next thing he does, but just know it's easily one of the hardest scenes to watch in the history of The Boys. And honestly, Homelander has never done any other character worse, but Marty got disrespected. Personally, I wouldn't have even let Homelander do me like that. And lastly, you have the main figure of Homelander's frustration, a woman named Barbara, who has known him since birth. He makes her return to the facility while in the midst of his carnage. She does not respond to or handle him with fear, since she is aware of his internal need for her approval. And this leads to the most terrifying aspect of Homelander being displayed front and center. In the moment where Homelander denounces his humanity, he makes it his mission to prove wrong each of his abusers. So when Barbara tells him he will never overcome his desire to be accepted and loved, Homelander takes it as a personal challenge to disassociate himself from the rest of humanity entirely. The main weakness he had was that Vought and the boys were able to exploit his desire to be accepted by humanity, as well as his son. But now Homelander desires to make his son just as inhuman and ruthless as he is. And with two Homelanders in the world, there's very likely nothing that would truly be able to stop them. This carnage, in my opinion, definitely solidified Homelander as the greatest, or arguably the worst TV series villain. I literally won't be able to forget most of the stuff he did in this episode. And we're only at the halfway point of the season. Not to mention that all this has nothing to do with the plan that Sister Sage has in order to bring chaos to an absolute tipping point between the two halves of the superhero fan in the world of The Boys. The Supes will soon be put at war against the rest of humans, with Homelander leading them at the forefront. I believe he will most likely end up living out Stormfront's dream, only with a slight variation being that Homelander's team will be 100% made of soup. He no longer sees himself as human and views the superhumans as the superior race. So I believe this episode was a foreshadowing to Homelander doing anything and everything to ignore his humanity. Ultimately, this leads me to my main theory for this season of The Boys, that the series' final villain will be none other than Homelander's son himself, Ryan. This is because Butcher is adamant on returning Ryan to his care after Ryan chose to leave with Homelander during the end of season 3, and has even made it his dying goal to get Ryan back into the custody of either himself or the boy. But if he's not able to do this in time, Homelander will be able to instill his evil thoughts into the boy, and will try to make him into an evil Superman successor that joins the Seven. However, I strongly feel that Ryan will ultimately end up choosing the side of neither Homelander or the boy, and instead will seek the destruction of Vought and the society that allowed all these things to happen to him. It's most likely that Ryan will become an even worse version of Homelander, and instead of seeking justice against those who specifically wronged him, he will seek justice by destroying the world. But that's something I'm definitely going to cover more in another video. So if you're excited for that and want to see it early, make sure you leave a like on the video and consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, if you wouldn't mind becoming a channel member, you can do so for as little as $2, and I promise you will not regret all the benefits that come with it. Definitely leave a comment letting me know what you thought of the most recent episode. Did it disturb you as much as it did me? Let me know and turn on that notification bell to get notified when I release more of the boys content. Thanks for watching. I love and appreciate you all. Sun God signing off.
I come in clutch like a genie. Don't talk unless you need me. You talk too much, you need it. All of my bitches look like models, she in love with me. When we link, it's flashing lights and cameras, got a blam.